Inshallah, we'll start. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidna ilma ya kareem. So inshallah, we'll begin the course starting with deconstructing doubts. Given that my section to cover will be about da'wah, the different methodologies of da'wah, and then focusing on Allah, the existence of God, the Creator, and then going to some of His essential or necessary attributes that are wherein there's a lot of shubuhat amongst the people. You know, shubuhat is like doubts and confusions amongst the people. And then inshallah we'll continue again in the next series next week, where we will definitely zero in and focus more on the other shubuhat of the 21st century, the other doubts and misconceptions that people have. So I first want to start that, you know, the first doubt that people do have is with respect to the significance and the importance of da'wah itself. You know, from my observations, I do not see much people giving attention to da'wah. You know, there's not much of a call or a need. A da'wah has to be made, particularly in the West, you know, such as us, we live in Australia. So, I mean, you know, this is one of the biggest issues that I can see personally amongst the people, is that they don't have, or they don't give that importance to da'wah as it should be. Or, you know, sometimes you have people who go and they give da'wah, but at the same time, they limit the da'wah to only the MSA, or they limit the da'wah to their own circle, or to their own people, you know, or they would only give da'wah just to the Muslims. But rather, there is definitely more to it than just, you know, giving da'wah to a selected group of people. You know, why limit the da'wah to only your own circle? So inshallah, through these presentations, we'll definitely have a more clarified and a more refined understanding of da'wah, its urgency, its importance, you know, and how should one go about giving the da'wah, so the methodology, the approach of da'wah, etc. So inshallah, we'll be covering all of this. Okay, so this schedule and course content. So the introduction to da'wah, the initiation. This is part of how to start the da'wah. How do we converse, and how do we start a conversation with anyone? You know, let it be my friend, let it be my family member, a relative, let it be a non-Muslim, a stranger. You know, how do we start to initiate a da'wah conversation? Then we'll be going into the go-up, which is the main methodology that is definitely that is supported by the Quran and Sunnah, and why it's the most effective and the most compelling approach from among the variety of the da'wah methodologies that are out there. And then we'll speak about God's existence and oneness. And inshallah, in our next course, or in the next session, we'll be focusing on revelation and prophethood, in some of the main controversial questions and misconceptions that people have. So we'll try to dispel the doubts regarding those issues, inshallah. So I just want to ask a few questions. You know, why are we here today? Why are we listening to this da'wah training course, or this series of da'wah? You know, one of the things that you expect from this course. So, you know, these are some questions that I want you to think about. And I want you to formulate an intention, to formulate a reason and purpose to why you're here. So I'm sure there is a chat also that is available. So inshallah, if anyone wants to write on the chat, or if anyone wants to say anything, you know, they can definitely have the say. Just find where the chat is. Mm. So there is a chat box if anyone wants to answer the questions. I mean, that's definitely helpful so that we can all be in this together, inshallah. You know, what are some of the things that you expect from the course, inshallah? You know, what do you want to gain from the course? What are the objectives that you have set for yourself? So we want to make it as engaging as possible, inshallah. Inshallah, we'll continue. Inshallah, I hope to strengthen my iman. First and foremost, mashallah, my brother Hamza. You see that, as mentioned, to build some confidence in giving da'wah. Definitely, we want to build some confidence in giving da'wah. I realize this is another concern that most people have, you know, a lack of confidence. So it's very hard to give da'wah. But inshallah, through these courses and through these training programs, inshallah, we can build that confidence. Okay. Malcolm X had mentioned, inshallah, I want to learn ways to appeal to people's emotions because I feel as though logic itself isn't sufficient to convince people. Interesting, very interesting, yeah. You know, logic is not the be-all or end-all. The logic is definitely a means, it's a tool, and that's something that we can speak about and we can elaborate, inshallah, during the program, the course. You know, logic is not the end. The end, rather, is belief in Allah. How can we believe in Allah? How can we have the iman in Allah, in the yaqeen in Allah? So that is the end. That's the destination. And there are many turuq, there are many paths, many avenues to that final destination. One of the means that the ulama and the scholars have agreed upon is the use of rationality, although it does have a certain limitation. But definitely that's something that we can go into. So that was by Max. We have by UTS Muslim Society member. I want to learn how to get involved in da'wah. MashaAllah. May Allah reward you. Inshallah, to carry out the legacy of our Prophet Muhammad and our father Ibrahim alayhi salam and spread the truth to its best capacity. MashaAllah. Look at the amazing and the beautiful intention. May Allah reward you for that. So inshallah, we'll continue. You know, these are some of the reasons that we can have, because we have been created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the relation between ibadah and worship in da'wah is that da'wah itself, it is us fulfilling the command of Allah. As you will see soon, that da'wah is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To do the da'wah, it is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is definitely the case. And we have other reasons mentioned as well. Okay. So more on the training, you know, why is training needed? Why do we need to undergo some kind of specified training for da'wah of conversation? You know, to be simple, da'wah these days are becoming more complex. Okay, and there is contextual background to this. Why da'wah is becoming more complex. Honestly, you know, just doing a simple conversation about Allah, simple conversation about just the reality itself, a simple basic conversation about, you know, what is the best way of life, you know, what are some of our purpose that we have in the life, you know, things like this. You'll see that they can go into great depth and great length. People have, you know, many different ideas and views and conceptions on these questions. You know, it's like you can't even speak with anyone anymore because they will have evidence, you know, they will have some opinion and some concept and some group of people that they follow and they adhere to. So da'wah is becoming more tricky, more difficult, more complex, if you may. So, I mean, in this case, one would need to equip themselves very strongly. One needs to equip themselves very well in order to be able to I guess, shine the light of Islam and to best represent Islam and to give it justice, one needs to learn. One needs to learn da'wah. So what I mentioned in the slide, giving da'wah is like an art or a skill, you know. So just like you need practice and training and knowledge when it comes to a skill or a field, likewise when it comes to da'wah, it has its own field, you know, it has its own skills, you know, it's an art. So this comes with time and practice and patience, and it comes time with study. Definitely research and study is vital and key when it comes to the whole enterprise about da'wah. So, you know, one of the things that we can expect, and some of the people, some of the participants of the meeting have mentioned very interesting points and very beneficial points, barakallahu fikum. So, you know, these are definitely some as well that we can keep in mind. Yeah. So learn how to give da'wah properly and effectively. You know, because da'wah, it's a very delicate thing. When we are giving da'wah, and inshallah the definition of da'wah will come, but it's a very delicate thing. It needs to be done properly. You know, it's like a surgeon who is doing surgery. You know, it has to adhere to certain formulations, certain regulations and protocols. Okay, and you don't want to say the wrong thing, or you don't want to do the wrong thing, because you are accountable and you are responsible for what you do. So I mean, similarly, when it comes to da'wah, we are accountable. We are, you know, responsible for what we do and what we say and how we articulate the message of Islam. Sorry. One of the objectives that we have is to seek and earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First and foremost, we are doing it to please Allah. So we are doing this to please Allah. You know, having a remembrance about the commands of Allah, and having like a gathering where we speak about how to fulfill the command of Allah. You know, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. Acknowledging the da'wah is an obligation. You know, this is some of the doubts that people have. You know, da'wah, it's something that, you know, it's for the ulama. Da'wah is for scholars. Da'wah is for the academics. You know, da'wah is for people who do research. No. Da'wah is for everyone. So inshallah, this is something that we'll focus on. We are also here to get rewarded from Allah. It's something beneficial, something which is praiseworthy. You know, it is about the good acts. You know, it is the good acts upon which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showers and bestows His rahmah. You know, and from that, inshallah, we'll attain paradise. So, without going into too much detail and spending too much time, we'll go next. Okay, there's a question by Hamza. Is da'wah fard kifaya or fard ayn? An individual obligation. This is something we will definitely cover. So inshallah, jazakallah khair, Brother Hamza. We will cover that. How do I ensure my deeds are accepted? Number one, ikhlas. We have to have sincerity, ikhlas, that we're doing it for Allah. We're not doing it to show off. We are not here to have a name or a fame. We are not here for wealth and money. We are not here for people to see us. I'm participating in this MSA gathering. No, we are here for Allah. This is our intention. This is our ikhlas bin niyyah, in our intention. Someone asked the question, UTS, Muslim Society member, can Islamophobia restrict our ability to give da'wah? You know, possibly. You know, this is something, again, that you know, the times have changed drastically. You know, Islamophobia is very strong. Islamophobia, it's not a simple movement. You know, there is a spectrum with Islamophobia. Some are radical, some are non-radical Islamophobic. But Islamophobia, you know, in the forces that are against the Muslims, they do have an impact in terms of our capacity and our ability to give the da'wah, without doubt. So, inshallah, we can explain this more appropriately in given time. So, what is da'wah? Let's get straight into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. So, da'wah, it comes from the root triliteral stem da, so dal, ayn, waw. Yeah, there is some background noises, so everyone can mute themselves. That would be beneficial and helpful, inshallah, to avoid the distraction. So da'wah, what does it mean? It means to invite, it means to call, literally. Linguistically, from the dictionary, if you have to open it, the word da'wah, it means to call and to invite. Now, from a sharia, from an Islamic perspective, what does da'wah mean in Islam? In light of the Quran and Sunnah. Da'wah, it means to invite and to call the people to Allah in His way. In His way, which is His religion, in His way. So Allah says, Ud'u ila sabili rabbik. Ud'u, command from Allah, give da'wah. Ila sabil, ud'u ila Allah, call the people to Allah. Ud'u ila Allah, in the sabil of Allah. Ud'u ila sabili rabbik, to the way of Allah. Okay, which is Islam, to call the people to the deen of Allah, to call them, to call mankind, to call humanity to the religion of Allah that He has prescribed and He has destined for us, for humanity. Okay. There's also the ayah in the Quran, in that they may grow out of you. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, that there may be a group from among you, from the ummah, from the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that invites unto all that is good. So we invite to that which is good. Now, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah in his tafsir, he defines ila al-khayr as being all of Islam, the whole of Islam. Call the people to Islam as a whole. Tell them what Islam is about. Invite them to the religion of beauty, to the religion of Allah. Okay. Now, the different types of da'wah, it can basically be broken down into active da'wah and passive da'wah. Or another way of saying it is the direct da'wah and the indirect da'wah. The direct and active da'wah is where you're engaging with someone. So for example, you are actually discussing about someone, about Islam, about the benefits of Islam, how Islam is a way of salvation from the punishment of Allah and from the hellfire, how Islam has the best economic model, or how Islam has the best model for morality and ethics, or why Islam is the best for civilization. Just having a conversation about Islam, the deen of Allah, the practices of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of this, it's under the direct and the active da'wah, when you are actively calling the people to Allah. And then you have another form, which is the passive da'wah, also called indirect da'wah. Now, this is, for example, when you show the people Islam through your behavior, your mannerisms, your actions, your dealings, your mu'amalat, your dealings, the way how you deal with people. This is called the passive indirect da'wah because you're not articulating the message of Islam to them. You're not telling them what Islam is about, but you are showing them. You are showing them what Islam is about through your own character, through your own behavior, in your own actions. Okay, both are from the Sunnah. Both are from the Sunnah. Both are established from the Sunnah. So we have to. When I mean that we have to, this comes under the Fard Kifaya, the Fard Ayn, which is coming. So I'm going to discuss it. But also when I say it is from the Sunnah, this does not mean that the hukum is Sunnah. I'm using the word Sunnah in a generalized way. Usually when the ulama, when they say from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was from the practice and from the teachings of Rasulullah. So this is not to be confused with the fiqh definition of Sunnah. Okay. So what's the importance of da'wah? Hmm? Da'wah, as we mentioned, it is a command from Allah. It's an amr from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So it's definitely something that we should speak about. We should tell others, you know, we should account ourselves. And we should hold others to account when it comes to da'wah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, and as I mentioned in before, Ud'u ila sabili rabbik, invite all of mankind to the way of Allah, Islam, to the deen of Allah. You know, the system that Allah has ordained for humanity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. This is from Surah Yusuf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, say, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي, this is my way, this is my path, this is my way. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ, I invite and I call the people to Allah, you know, to the right belief in Allah, to the tawheed, you know, to the deen of Allah. أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ, upon sure knowledge. This is why the ulama, they comment and they said it is an obligation. It's mandatory for the person who gives da'wah to have knowledge of what he is giving da'wah for. So this does not mean you need to be an alim. Rather, all it's saying, the meaning is that whatever you're calling the people towards, you need to have knowledge in that. So if you are calling someone towards belief in Allah, you need to have knowledge in the belief in Allah. Okay, in this case, it would be assumed. But whatever the case is, whether you're calling them to prayer, whether you're calling them to Friday prayer, or you're calling them to fasting in the month of Ramadan, charity, or you're calling them to any other action of Islam, then you need to possess knowledge of that. Or it doesn't have to be an action. It may be the case that you're calling them to a concept of Islam. You know, you're calling them to the understanding of Islam. You know, what is the correct understanding? This also requires knowledge, ala basira, as mentioned in the Quran. And then something interesting follows. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and also mentioned, so after ala basira, ana wa man ittaba'ani, I am upon this way, and whosoever follows me is upon this way. Whosoever follows me, follows Rasulullah, you know, it claims to be a follower of Rasulullah and ummati of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then that person should also be upon the path of da'wah, should be upon the way of calling the mankind, calling humanity to Allah, into the deen of Allah. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and I'm not from amongst the polytheists. You know, the ulama, they also mention here, if you look in the tafsir, the reason why Rasulullah sallallahu in the Quran that he mentioned, وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ, and I am not from among the mushrikeen, is because they said that one of the most effective and one of the best ways of eliminating shirk, so polytheism, from the heart is to give da'wah. Because when you are giving da'wah, you are calling them to tawheed. You are calling them to Allah. So one of the best ways of removing the shirk, whether shirk, sometimes shirk is not apparent. Shirk, they call it shirk al-khafi, you know, the hidden, the obscure kind of shirk. This, one of the best ways of removing this kind of shirk is through the da'wah, because you are actively, consciously, deliberately engaging yourself, immersing yourself into the call of Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ, who is better in speech than the one who calls to Allah. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and he does righteous actions, righteous deeds, and says, وَأَنَا مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and I am from among the Muslims. Allah says, who is better than such a person? Calls unto Allah, he performs righteous actions, and he firmly believes that he is from amongst the Muslims. So, this should be the example for us to follow. This should be the expectation, the objective for us to meet, inshallah. Mission, purpose, focus, target of the Prophet. And so, if anyone who looks at the seerah, the biography, the life of Rasulullah, you can immediately find out that the Prophet was all about da'wah. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his whole objective, his whole mission, his whole focus and target was da'wah. And this is not exclusive to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All of the prophets, all of the messengers, from the time of Adam alayhi salam until the final seal, Khatam al-Nubuwwah, Muhammad ibn Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, all of them were upon the understanding of da'wah. All of them were commanded to give da'wah. Honestly, it's just very clear. Anyone who reads the Quran as well, you'll find that it was the mission of all of the prophets alayhi salatu wasalam. All of them, they came with the objective: how can we call the people to Allah, to the correct belief in Allah, the correct understanding of Allah? How can we call them to the moral actions? How can we show them the guidance of Allah? This is what da'wah is about. And there are many ayats in the Quran and many stories. Honestly, many stories. Anyone who reads the Quran, you will know definitely that there are many stories in the Quran about da'wah. In the da'wah of the prophets, I mentioned the da'wah of Musa alayhi salam, the da'wah of Yusuf alayhi salam, the da'wah of Shu'aib alayhi salam, the da'wah of Hud alayhi salam, the da'wah of Shu'aib, Hud, Musa, Nuh alayhi salam, all of the prophets. Ibrahim, the da'wah of Ibrahim alayhi salam is mentioned. So this is something that is very clear. Anyone who reads the Quran or is familiar with the seerah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So again, this applies to us clearly. Why does it apply to us? Because the command of da'wah has been transferred to the ummah, to the followers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Unlike the previous nations, da'wah was only the responsibility of the Prophet, only. However, this ummah is special, and we should take it as something special. We should not take the responsibility of da'wah as a burden. Rather, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. Allah says, كنتم, you are the best of nations. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. You are the best of nation. You are the best of people. For mankind, that has emerged for mankind. Why? تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. Because you enjoin that which is good and you forbid that which is evil, and because you say that you are believers in Allah. وتؤمنون بالله, and because you believe in Allah. So the responsibility of da'wah is upon the ummah. Ummatin kuntum khayra ummah. The word is very clear. Allah says ummah. So the responsibility of da'wah is upon the nation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like I said, there are many ayat in the Quran that speaks about how the responsibility has been shifted. It's transferred to the nation. It's not only a prophet mission or the target of a prophet. Now it's become upon the responsibility of the ummah. أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, as it's mentioned in the previous ayah in Surah Yusuf. Hadith, that is concerning the importance of da'wah. Allah mentions, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, convey from me even if it is only one verse. بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey from me, tell the people. Even if it is only one verse of the Quran. If you know Surah Al-Fatiha, subhanallah, Surah Al-Fatiha, the amount of knowledge and wisdom and insight and depth and profundity which is contained within Surah Al-Fatiha, it will amaze you. Wallahi, it will amaze you. There are massive books, volumes of books written on the tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha. This is like a weapon that you have. Not a weapon, but it's a gem. It's a gem that you have. If you know Surah Al-Fatiha, tell the people. Tell them about Allah. If you know Surah Al-Ikhlas, قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. This is more than sufficient. This is more than sufficient, adequate information for one to pass on the message. And again, we'll speak about what exactly are we meant to do, or what exactly are we held accountable and responsible for? What's the mission for us? Is it to convert them, or is it just to convey the message of Islam? That's something that we can touch upon. Another very important hadith mentioned in the final sermon of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's called the Khutbatul Wada', the welfare sermon. This was the final sermon of Rasulullah. He said, all those who listen to me shall pass on my words to others, and those to others again. Clearly we've been informed that we should inform others about Islam. Okay. What's the importance of da'wah? We spoke about this. The ruling. This is where there is a bit of, again, shubuhat, doubts. What is the ruling of da'wah? Some people say, look, the da'wah is optional. Honestly, I understand what you're saying. Da'wah is important. It's emphasized. It's very virtuous. But at the end of the day, please just leave me alone. I would like to continue my research. I would like to continue my own studies. Leave me alone. I don't want to do da'wah. This person has a grave misunderstanding of Islam and a grave misunderstanding of what he's meant to do, of what she is meant to do. So the ruling of da'wah, there is a genuine and a real dispute. So this is something that is, there's a real ikhtilaf amongst scholars of the Islam regarding the ruling of da'wah. Okay, but to say it is an option, this is a misunderstanding. No scholar will tell you da'wah is an option. You can give da'wah if you want to, but if you don't want to, it's fine. No, da'wah is fard. The debate is whether this is fard kifaya or fard ayn. Fard ayn, what does it mean? It means an individual, personal obligation, such that everyone is obligated to give da'wah. Everyone is obligated to give da'wah. And this is the first position. This is the first opinion that is that some scholars have mentioned. For example, salah. Everyone has to pray. It's a personal obligation. If someone prays for me, that doesn't mean that I stop praying. No, you have to continue still praying. Fard kifaya, it means it is a collective communal obligation such that if a group of people performs an act, then the community is absolved. The community is free from the blame. And the community will be saved from the sin. Okay, so for example, if a Muslim passes away, there has to be the washing of the person, the deceased person, to wash and to give the bath, called the ghusl, and then to bury the Muslim and to pray Salat al-Janaza. This comes under Fard al-Kifaya. If the community does not perform this act, they are all sinful. Okay. So, generally, this is what the ulama have said. Generally, da'wah is said to be fard kifaya. As in the default is it's fard kifaya. It's not fard ayn, it's fard kifaya. As long as a group of people within the community performs the action, then it suffices and it absolves the blame from the rest. And the evidence for this is mentioned in the Quran. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ. So let there arise from you, as in from the ummah, a group of people. وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ. So among the ummah, there's a group of people. Let them arise who will give the da'wah. And they invite to that which is good, and they enjoin the good, and they forbid the evil. Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. they are the successful people. You know, again, this is something that we should really contemplate and think about. You know, Allah is defining what is success for us here. You know, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, they are the successful people. You know, Allah is telling us, you know, these are the acts of virtue. So even if you take the opinion it is Fard Kifaya, which is the correct understanding, it is Fard Kifaya, but still one should strive to be from among the people whom Allah said they are successful. However, the ulama, they have said, the scholars of Islam have said that if a person resides and lives amongst non-Muslims, so it's a non-Muslim country, you know, which the majority is non-Muslims, then it becomes fard ayn upon that group of Muslims who live within the majority of non-Muslim people for them to give da'wah. You know, because it is not sufficient, it's not adequate for one person to give da'wah. There has to be a group of Muslims, a group of people who are continuous, who are steadfast upon the action of da'wah. So there has to be continuity and steadfastness as well when it comes to da'wah. If a group stops giving da'wah, they are all sinful. Every Muslim in that locality is sinful. And this is why it is so important in that we should try to implement da'wah as much as we can in our lives. Okay, and there is you know, another debate in terms of locality, region. You know, to what extent is it just restricted to one area, one suburb, or is it, you know, like what's the boundary, what's the restriction? That's another debate. And there are differences of opinions there as well. So again, you know, as mentioned, for some of the scholars, in order for one to even reside in a non-Muslim country, they would have to give da'wah if they don't satisfy the other conditions. Other condition is, for example, seeking a medicine or a surgery which cannot be done in a Muslim country, or one is going there to seek beneficial knowledge. And the third reason is for da'wah. You know, if you don't fulfill these conditions, then, you know, according to this group of scholars, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. So it's your ticket. If you want to stay in these countries, then you would have to be doing the mission of da'wah. Allah. Vision of da'wah. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says in an amazing hadith that Islam, it will reach the night in where the day reaches. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enter it, yani Islam, into every home, even if they were made from mud or hair by the might of those who are mighty, in the disgrace of those who are disgraced. With glory that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala glorifies Islam in disgrace that He will disgrace disbelief with. More or less, Islam will prevail. Islam is a religion which will dominate and it will prevail. It will reach every single home, as described in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now the question is, do you want to be part of this vision of Islam? Because no doubt, this will happen. Okay, we don't know when, but this will happen one time. You know, Islam will prevail. It will be the dominating religion. The question is, do you want to be part of this vision? Do you want to take part in making Islam globalized? This is something we should think about. So we spoke about the importance and the obligation and the responsibility. Now, if that's not going to convince you, although it should, but if that doesn't convince you, well then da'wah, there are a lot of rewards, immense benefits and virtues in da'wah. You know, for example, as we mentioned from the Quranic ayah, Allah says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى. You know, who is better than the one who calls and invites unto Allah? In another ayah, which was previously mentioned as well, Allah describes the people of da'wah who give da'wah, they enjoy the good. You know, يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ they enjoin the ma'roof. وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and they forbid and they prevent evil. Allah says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Allah says they are the successful people. There are other hadith which also can be mentioned. So for example, the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he told Ali radiallahu anhu, by Allah, if a single person is guided by Allah through you, it will be better for you than a whole load of red camels. Now, you might not understand why, what's the connection, or what's the relation between calling someone to Allah, them being guided, and you receiving, or better than receiving a whole load of red camels. The thing is, at the time, red camels were the most valuable, the most expensive, the most precious items at the time. It's like something very valuable, very precious and expensive. Allah is saying, look, if one person is guided from you, it's better than you than all of that. SubhanAllah, this should be something which, honestly, it should motivate us. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned another hadith, whoever calls to guidance will have a reward similar to that of those who follow it without the reward of either of them being lessened at all. Sahih Muslim. So this is where Sadaqah Jariyah comes. If you want to gain rewards, if you want to invest in your afterlife, if you want to invest in you reaching a higher station in paradise, then this is the best investment plan for you. The investment plan is very simple. One who engages in da'wah, and any good which comes from that, anyone who is guided, anyone who becomes a Muslim or follows that one particular action which you have, which you've called them to. For example, someone now attending Friday prayer, or for example, there's a Muslim who's now wearing the hijab. But if you were the means, if you were the sabab of that, you will get the reward. If you teach someone Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha, for example, you will get the reward every single time the other person recites Surah Al-Fatiha. So it is the best investment plan for you. Sometimes, personally for myself, I'm not speaking from others, but for myself, when I see big du'at in the world, the callers of Allah, in the world, when you see them, like you can't help yourself but to say, what a blessed person. What a blessed person. This person has called hundreds and hundreds of people to Islam. And this person is amassing all of their hasanat, all of the rewards the person is having. So it's coming to their bank account. Or not bank account, astaghfirullah, but it's coming to their hasanat account. This is honestly something that we should think about in terms of our afterlife, investing in our afterlife, having more rewards, more, a higher station with Allah. Let's give that. Purpose and mission. Urgency. This is very important. Urgency of da'wah. Why is giving da'wah so important? Not only so important, but what's so urgent about it? From one perspective, from one way of looking at it, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned, none of you will believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Now, the word here, li'akhi, which is translated to be your brother, it does not literally mean your brother. Okay, it means anyone. Okay, whether it's your sister, your brother, a non-Muslim, whatever the background of the person is, whatever the gender of the person is. Okay, li'akhi. So whatever you love for yourself, you should love for others, basically. And that's the meaning. So the most beloved thing to a Muslim should be their belief in Islam. Because when you believe in Islam, obviously you believe in Allah. And you believe in Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and you believe in all of the prophets and all of the messengers of Allah. And you believe in things which gives you salvation from the hellfire. And that's the most crucial point. A Muslim believes in things which saves them from the hellfire. That is the most valuable thing to anyone. So if you possess this belief, and this belief is as such that it is a shield, it's a protection, it's a refuge for you from the hellfire, which is eternal damnation, eternal punishment, then this should really make you ponder, hold on, how come other people do not have this belief as us? You know, what am I doing here, not passing on, not conveying the message and the belief of Islam to others, if the end result is going to be eternal punishment? Really, like, it actually shocks me, and it surprises me as well. Like, this is real, you know, it's paradise and hell, eternal paradise or eternal hell. If they don't have Islam, you know, they might end up in hell forever. So how can I keep Islam to myself? So I mean, that's basically the idea in terms of, you know, don't be selfish, you know, pass on Islam, because, you know, it is the most valuable thing to you. It's the most precious thing for you. So one should be motivated and encouraged to pass on Islam to others and spread this salvation. Honestly, one should spread the salvation. You know, like, I don't want to speak about Christianity at this stage. Now, if I speak about them, we're going to spend another 20 minutes just speaking about, you know, Christians and their beliefs and everything about them. But one thing about the Christians is that they call the people to salvation. They actively, deliberately, they promote and they say, if you believe in Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you will be saved. This is where your salvation lies. Okay, you know, it's interesting, but first of all, you know, the person's understanding of salvation is incorrect. In the belief as well, it's incorrect. But as a Muslim, I know my beliefs is what will lead a person to paradise. So how can I keep it to myself? I should actively promote this belief. You know, this is where your salvation lies. If you want a ticket to paradise, it's Islam. Essentially, it is. So that's something that we can, inshallah, think about. Hellfire, as mentioned, it's real. You know, it's something that is real. And there are consequences of not giving da'wah. That's, you know, you should just know that there are consequences of not giving da'wah. Something else which should motivate us to give da'wah is that we will be asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah will tell us, He will ask us, what did you do for Islam? What did you do for Islam? As in, what means did you take? What actions did you take to spread Islam? If it's something that will be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Again, if you're not giving da'wah is being given to you. It's something which is real. If we don't call the people to Allah or people to Islam, there are many, many different movements and groups out there that will call you to them. You have secularism, and they will call you to secularism. You have capitalism, they will call you to capitalism. You have socialists, you have feminists who will call you to feminism. You have the LGBT group, and they will call you towards them. You have so many groups out there, honestly, countless of different worldviews, philosophies, belief systems that are out there, movements that will call you to them. And subhanAllah, Islam as being the eternal truth. Islam is the eternal truth. Yet we want to keep it to ourselves. So now we spoke about da'wah. Now let's speak about a da'i. A da'i is the person who gives da'wah. What are some of the traits and qualities that a da'i must have and must possess? The first thing is sincerity and concern. Anyone who reads the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, automatically you will see that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he had great concern for humanity. All of his life and all of his mission was about calling the people to every acting this mission. How can the people know about Islam and how can they accept Islam? And he would grieve and he would be concerned day in, day out, day and night. You know, he would pray during the night time for his followers, for the ummah. How can the ummah be saved? And how can the ummah, be how be given? And how can the mercy of Allah be upon the ummah? He would pray day in and day night for us. You know, so that's for the concern and the sincerity. The objective, the intention should be clear, which was to declare, to establish the truth in the best of ways. You know, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does mention, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbik bil hikmah wal maw'izati wal mu'izah." You know, in the best of ways. And to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone into his deen with knowledge, and with wisdom. Ala basira, with wisdom. So one should have knowledge, one should possess insight, wisdom. What is wisdom? What's the difference between ilm and hikmah? Knowledge is to know the reality of something, as defined by the usuli scholars of Islam. Knowledge is to know the reality of something. Then such a person has knowledge. Wisdom is the ability to perform actions appropriate to its time and its place and in the manner that it's done. So wisdom is actually more comprehensive, it's more practical. It has to do with the practicality of the action. How are you doing it? Or how are you saying it? Where are you saying it? To whom are you saying it? So wisdom is something which we see among the prophets. And it's definitely a virtue that a Muslim should strive for, and a Muslim should try to embody as much as they can. Kindness and gentleness. Every da'i should be kind and should be gentle. You know, we see this in the Quran. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he commands Musa alayhi salam and Harun to speak very softly and to speak gently to Fir'aun. So Allah says to him, and speak to him layyina. Layyina means gently. Speak to them with kindness, perhaps that he may receive the admonition. And if you speak to someone very harshly, it's not going to be well received. So one has to master this trait, and this quality of speaking to people kindly. And again, da'wah is not only to the Muslims. Da'wah is to the non-Muslims. I don't know why, but some people, they tend to restrict and they tend to limit da'wah to only a group of people. For example, the Muslims, we should only give da'wah to Muslims, focus on the Muslims, etc. Yes, and they have their reasons, right? They have the reason and the justification for why we should focus on da'wah before giving da'wah to non-Muslims. But this is not the principle, this is not the way of Rasulullah. The way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was give da'wah to everyone and anyone. You give da'wah to everyone and anyone, that's the principle. So we should speak very nicely, even if we're speaking to an atheist, even if we're speaking to someone who hates Islam. Fir'aun was the worst enemy of Islam. He was an oppressive tyrant, Yet Allah commands Musa and Harun to speak to him in kind, in gentle words. There's a question here. Brother Hamza, I have heard some Muslims say that they would rather save themselves from sinning by making a mistake while giving da'wah and be held accountable than actively give da'wah. Rather save themselves from sinning. Yeah, I mean, I understand where the person is coming from, and it makes sense. But one should not misplace this principle. So the principle here is, if you know that there's a risk in you giving da'wah, because it may cause harm, there may be a backlash, it can cause problems, it can cause provocation from a certain group of people if you give da'wah. That is definitely the case. And also what we see that just comes to mind is that we see Muslims, sorry, not Muslims, we see prophets, we see all of the prophets, when they gave da'wah, there was definitely a backlash, there was provocation, there was harm that was directed to them. So just because there's the potentiality of people shunning us away, people ridiculing us or saying bad remarks to us, shouldn't be a means or a way for us to stop. Are these the prerequisites, or can they be? Yeah, definitely. I mean, to an extent, they are prerequisites, and to an extent, they're also some things which you can develop over time because they are qualities. And there's no dispute in the fact that qualities can be improved over time. It's not something which you have. It's not like there's a spectrum when it comes to qualities. So, I mean, that can definitely develop over time, but at the same time, they are prerequisites, particularly when it comes to knowledge. Knowledge, undoubtedly and undisputably, knowledge, information, that is a prerequisite of giving da'wah. So inshallah, I hope that answers the question. Okay. I mean, there's also about patience, which Allah mentions in the Quran to Luqman alayhi salam. No useless debates. Some people, there was meant to be a picture here, but I'm not sure why it's like. Inshallah. So no useless debates. I mean, a lot of people, they enter a conversation just to debate. The whole aim of the conversation is how I can debate the person, how I can refute the person, how I can show that they're wrong, and they're misguided, etc. This should not be the aim or the objective of any Muslim. Islam comes with it a lot of morality, ethical guidelines. SubhanAllah. Honestly, Islam is a beautiful religion. There's so many good within Islam that can refine a person, the character, the intention, and the inner and the outer. Honestly, Allahu Akbar, Islam, it speaks about everything. It encompasses your life, your inner and your outer, in your society, everything. So, I mean, in this case, no useless debates because it's pointless. And not only that, but your intention of entering into a discussion is wrong. It should be for the sake of Allah, not for the sake of debating and refuting and showing that they are misguided and how I can show them that they're on falsehood, etc. Key principles again, no harshness, and all of these are backed up by hadith in the Quran. All of them are literally backed up from hadith in the Quran. Allah is encouraging us. Allah is telling us how we should be. Islam has come to refine who we are with the people, with ourselves. Islam speaks on all levels of life. Okay. So now let's go into the methodologies. What are the methodologies? What are the existing da'wah methodologies that are out there? Okay, number one, the first typical standard methodology that is out there is, for example, a question's been asked, and let me try to make it more interactive by asking all of the participants that are here. So how would you respond? What would you say if someone asked you, why do Muslim women wear the hijab? Without looking at the answers, but as in, how would you respond? Why do Muslims wear the hijab? Well, if it might be easier, you can say something. Sorry, you can say something. You can hold the microphone. I don't mind. I'm not sure if there's any regulations or rules regarding microphone or the speaker. Yeah, you can use the mic. So I mean, you can use the mics. So don't be afraid. Other questions, if you want to answer as well. Why do Muslim men leave the beard? Or forget about that. Why do Muslims have to fast the month of Ramadan? The month of Ramadan. Why do we have to fast? Why do Muslims pray 5 times a day? If a non-Muslim knows that a Muslim prays 5 times a day, they are curious. They are really curious to know why we pray 5 times every single day. Okay, from UTS Muslim Society member, Muslim women wear the hijab because they believe in Allah. Interesting. Very true. Very true. But at the same time, uh, and then is that the exact reason? Is that why Muslim women wear the hijab?
Because
I mean,
Allah told us to.
because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders to. Definitely, that is correct. That's the answer, really. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. So, and that is as a result of what this UTS Muslim Society member, what this person mentioned. It's because they believe in Allah. So, the answer is right, but it's just not the first line answer. The first line answer is because they've been commanded by Allah, which stems from their belief in Allah. So, yeah. So, that's the real reason, but unfortunately, the typical standard answer would be, oh, look, it's a good thing to do. It's a very moral thing to do. Muslims should cover themselves because it's very moral. And anyone who does not cover themselves is immoral and they're bad. These kinds of comments in a dawah conversation, although it's understandable and I can sympathize with it, but at the same time, it might have a negative reaction. It's not going to be received very, very well. If you were to say that to a lady, oh, hold on, so you're saying I'm not moral, so I'm immoral, which means I'm doing something wrong and bad. So, that's not the best line of action. That's not the best line of comment that one should make. So it's about the strategy. How do we respond when it comes to people asking us questions? And then there are different other responses that can be made with respect to the question that is being asked. Let's see here. So these are the questions. Why do Muslim men? Why don't Muslim men cover their bodies? Which is different to Muslim women who are required to cover their bodies. Some people will tell you, look, just leave me alone. I don't need religion. I'm happy the way I am. I don't believe in God. The person will say that he does not believe in God, and I'm happy. Just leave me the way I am. Like, how would you respond to such a person? Sometimes, when giving da'wah, you are confronted with a variety of different people, different personalities, different comments, different statements and positions. It's literally surprising. But if someone doesn't believe in Allah, that answer, or how would that answer apply to them? Okay, so Hibaba is mentioning that. Farhan Khan is saying, would you say that there is wisdom behind the orders of Allah? Yes, definitely. So the comment by Farhan Khan, the answer is yes, there is hikmah in the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is wisdom, whether we can discern it, find it or not, definitely. Just coming back to Hibaba's question, so she said, if someone doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so the answer is not going to apply to them. That is correct. Now, this introduces us to the whole concept of worldview and the whole concept of different belief systems. You see, as Muslims, we are doing it because of X, Y, Z. So as a Muslim, because, the question is about why do Muslims pray, or why do Muslim women wear the hijab, etc. So all of the other questions that are similar directed to the Muslims, the answer is, well, because I am a Muslim. What does that mean? It means I submit to the will of Allah. And saying I submit to the will of Allah is another way of saying that I'm doing it because Allah has commanded us to do so. I'm not doing it because of my father. I'm not doing it because of my mom. I'm not doing it because my siblings are doing it. I'm not doing it because of my friends are doing it. Rather, I am doing it because I am instructed by the Creator. I'm instructed by Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold me onto account. So there is responsibility and accountability for what I do. If I don't do it, I'll be held accountable in the afterlife. So all of these are answers with respect to these questions, which stems back to a theological basis. There is based on theology and belief in Allah. But we're just showing the non-Muslim our perspective, why we do it, and why we think, this belief system is the correct belief system. It is the only belief system, and that's how the Gawah addresses. That's the answer of the Gawah. But inshallah, we're going to come to the Sheikh Nafi Haqq mentioned Yeah. Can we simply say it is because we do it for the goodness of our own souls? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in no need of us, but we have been created in a state of loss, and only Allah gives us sanction. I can definitely understand where the question is coming from. Definitely, I can sympathize with it. It's a very interesting question as well. But at the same time, saying that I'm doing an action because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told me to do so doesn't then mean that Allah is in need of our worship. In fact, saying that I pray, to say I pray because of the goodness of myself, I would say it's a very dangerous, it's a very risky kind of intention, because it means you are not doing it for Allah, rather you're doing it for yourself. If that makes sense. So I mean, in that way, it's best to say that we do it for the sake of Allah. We are doing it because of the pleasure of Allah, not even because of ourselves. Regardless of how I feel, whether praying is a burden, it gives me satisfaction or not. No, I'm doing it because I'm held responsible for the act. In a nutshell, basically. Okay, moving on. But again, at the same time, the question makes good points about we are always in a state of loss, and Allah does not need any of our worship. Wallahu huwa al-ghani. Allah is ghani. I mean, the first approach, which is, it's not a bad answer. It's not a wrong answer as well. It's actually a right answer, because Islam teaches modesty. This is why I cover my body and I cover my hair, and this is why I don't wear, clothes, which have been prohibited, for example, because of modesty. It's a right answer. But at the same time, we want to give them the theological answer. And the theological answer is the most important, because we show them why our belief system dictates our life. It is our belief system that determines how I represent myself in what I do in my daily life. Okay, and because what we're going to do soon is that we're going to show the proofs of our theological basis. So first step is that we link it to our theology and say, because we've commanded to do so, and we'll be held accountable for our actions. And then we're going to be proving or showing why this theological belief system is correct. This is why some of the main typical common approaches, why they fail. It's because the answer is subjective, it's very personal, it's relative, it makes me feel good. I think it's moral, I think it's modest. No, you don't. I think homosexuality is evil, or homosexuality is bad. I think it's absolutely immoral and unnatural. Someone else will tell you homosexuality is natural, and science gives us some evidence, and etc., etc., etc. And it opens to an endless circle of questions. Not only that, but it opens up the door of argumentation, and it's never going to stop. Never going to stop. So what we have to do, essentially, is that we have to move away from the particular, so from the individual scenario, from the individual question, and we have to link it back to our theological basis, to our belief system. We have to link it back to our belief system, which is to tell them that, the commands and the prohibitions, the instructions in the dictates of Islam, they come from Allah. They come from the creator of the heavens and the earth, and they come from our own creators, who created us. And Islam is about submission to the will of Allah, to the commands of Allah. And this is what Islam is about. So this is the first line of comment that we should make as Muslims when it comes to questions like these. Because the main thing we want to do is that we want to show them the representation of the Islamic belief. It's about that representation. Initiation. So how do we initiate? I think that's quite important. Stages. Okay. So how do we initiate? We initiate by looking at a few things, whether it's active or passive. How do we start a conversation? Some basic things to keep in mind. Okay, so how do we start? How do we initiate a da'wah conversation? You know, this is the main thing. And a lot of people have questions about this. How do I start a da'wah conversation? How can I start to speak with someone? You know, like, what's the first thing I should say? And it's very anxious, it's very confronting and intimidating. So how can we break the ice? So inshallah, we're going to be focused on this. The first is acknowledgement or initiation statement, depending if it's a passive scenario or an active scenario. And inshallah, we're going to define this. This is just like a synopsis or a general overview. So let's get right into it. Two types of initiation, passive and active. Passive, what does it mean? It is when you receive a question. Someone asks you. So for example, you're at the MSA, you're at university, and you know, your friend sees you wearing a scarf, wearing the hijab, you know, and so she asks you the question, you know, hey, Sarah, why are you wearing the hijab? Why are you wearing the headscarf? And why do Muslims wear it? Something like that. So that's a passive scenario. An active scenario is when you are asking a question or when you're posing a question. So for example, you are telling someone, hey, John, I want to ask you a question. You know, what do you think can make you really happy? What makes you really happy, for example? Or, you know, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? Where are we going? You know, have we been set? Like, has our life been set? It definitely has been. Theologically, if you look at it, our life's been set. I mean, that's going to be another discussion for us to talk about. But I mean, it's a very reflective point that our lives have been set. You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has literally told us how we should live our own lives. It's set. All we have to do is opt in or opt out. And if we accept and submit to the will of Allah and to the dictation of Allah, you know, we will be saved. But I mean, that's how it is. And some people, they can't get that across. Like, they can't accept that. I have to give in to Allah. And then people are like, no, you know, there's no way that I'm going to submit to, you know, to God. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to follow my own desires. I'm going to follow my own opinion, my own thought, what I think is right, what I think is correct. At the end of the day, you know, the reality is Allah has set everything. And if we submit to it willingly, with satisfaction, we submit to it, then we'll be rewarded and we'll pass the test. Otherwise, you know, there will be consequences. You know, I mean, this is the fact of the matter. So, I mean, I don't know how did we get there, but again, I'm posing a question. Character and empathy is part of da'wah, part and parcel. You know, anyone who gives da'wah has to embody the Islamic character, has to embody the character of being a prophet. You know, prophets, they were amazing in their character. Impeccable, noble, integral. You know, they had high integrity in their character and how they were. You know, in their whole mannerisms, in their behavior, the actions, what they say, what they would do, the etiquettes. So as a da'i, we should follow the same example because we're doing the same thing. We're trying to give da'wah, we're trying to convey the message of Islam. We're trying to tell the people why Islam is the truth. So this definitely requires an embodiment of the Islamic persona, you know, the Islamic character and the Islamic personality. So this is continuous. And then we have the concept. In order for you to understand, you know, the answer to the question, you have to understand the concept of Islam. Now, this is going to be repeated again and again, the concept, what the concept is. So, I mean, if we can all memorize that, I mean, that would be excellent. What the concept is. So, any question that is posed to us, or any question that we pose to people, we will say, in order for you to understand the answer, you need to understand the concept of Islam. Right, let me look at the chat box. There's one question. Okay, so Hamza has mentioned. So, do we bring it back to the fact that we believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam received revelation and God commanded us? Absolutely correct. Spot on. That is right, Brother Hamza. It's all about theology. You know, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us when we've been instructed, and we know this through the Quran or we know that through, or we know it through the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So these are just some tips that we can go through. Introduce yourself, exchange names, just basically tell you what you do, what you study, just to start the conversation by breaking the ice, because maybe you don't want to get straight into it. What do you think about Islam? What do you think about religion? So, you can definitely water the conversation down by starting off with something nice and simple, very generic. What you do for a living, etc. What are your interests? And then, tell them, look, I've been thinking about a question. Like, what is the purpose of our life? Or you can ask something else. I've been thinking if there's something greater than us, if there's something like a higher being, something that we should praise and glorify and worship. What do you think, Jonathan? Hey, John. I've been really thinking about the creation of the universe, and it seems to me that the universe is created. But if that's the case, what does it mean? Right? So things like this, you can just ask inquisitive kind of questions just to start the conversation going. So this is for a passive scenario. Look, if someone asks me a question, literally, if someone can grab the mic and ask me a question. Let's say, anyone, just grab the mic and ask me a question. Just so we can do a demonstration. Anyone?
Okay. What does Islam say about chopping off hands?
Wow, that's a brilliant question. Excellent question. I think in order for us to understand the answer to that question, we need to first understand the concept of Islam. So let me go through the concept of Islam with you, and then that's when you continue. So basically what you're doing in a way is that you're avoiding answering the question directly. You're not giving them a direct answer. You're not. What you're doing is that you're rather taking that question and you're translating it into a theological conversation. You're translating that question into the basis of that question. So for example, chopping off the hands, although definitely, I would say to clarify it and to say that, look, it's not like cut off anyone's hands or to cut off the hands of someone who has just stolen, a bread, a loaf of bread or some chocolate or something like that. There are conditions, right? There are conditions when it comes to, the punishment or the penalty of stealing, theft. And likewise, there are conditions with all of the other legal penalties. All of the other laws and punishments of Islam, there are strict, rigorous conditions. So that's something that one should say to clarify. But at the same time, one should link that question back to the theology of Islam and say, look, that's a good question, but in order for us to understand anything about Islam, including this question, we need to understand the concept of Islam. We need to understand what Islam's about. So, that's the best way of dealing with such questions, and any question for that matter. You know why? Because it is a direct introduction to da'wah. It's a direct introduction to da'wah. You are calling the person now to Allah, literally telling the person, such things like commandments from Allah. Why do we believe in Allah? Okay, that takes it into another discussion of the existence of God, the oneness of God. Why is He worthy of worship and praise and glorification? Why should we, do X, Y, Z? It becomes a conversation of proper da'wah. Proper da'wah. How would you deal with a more confrontational person that starts saying you're deflecting and you are avoiding the answer to the question? Excellent. If someone does that, and if someone says, no, hold on, you are avoiding the answer. Tell me what the answer is. If someone tells you that, say, look, the answer is the concept. I'm sorry, but the answer is the concept. If you want to know why cutting the hand of a theft exists, why that law, why is that instruction there, you have to understand the theology. You have to understand God. It literally comes because we believe in God. We believe that He has prescribed us with certain guidelines. And we are responsible and accountable for fulfilling these guidelines. So it's all about theology. So literally, we're not avoiding the answer, and tell the person, you know, the concept is the answer. You know, the theology is the answer. How would you answer the common question of apostasy? So again, there's two ways. You clarify any misconceptions if the person does have, but at the same time you say, look, even when it comes to apostasy, okay, which is to execute the person for the act of treason. And also because one has to clarify what they mean by apostasy. Technically, what we Muslims mean as a ridda, that's the Arabic word ridda, which is to like go against Islam. It's like a rebellion. Ridda is a kind of rebellion. It's not, for example, that you change and now you're a Muslim and now you become non-Muslim and we execute you. That's a misunderstanding. Rather, once the person becomes a threat to the Islamic State, once the person becomes a threat and rebels against the Islamic State, or tries to make a movement against Islam, then in that case, the law and the rulings of ridda apply. Okay, ridda, R-I-D-D-A. And that's what applies. So when it becomes apostasy, and if the person says, yeah, but why? Just because the person is a threat to the Islamic State, that doesn't mean you should execute them. So look, this is how it is, and this is why I believe in it. And I think my belief is true because of X, Y, Z. I can prove my belief to be true. I can demonstrate why this belief is true. So you take it back to the objectivity, and you try to move away from the emotional reactions that people have when it comes to these questions. So we try to move away from the emotional reactions, and we try to bring it back to theology, and that which is the case, which is the objective truth. Okay, look, why do we have to do this? Because that's how it is. Really, that's how it is. We have to submit to it. We have to accept it. There's a massive question here. Hello, I wanted to know if this is correct. Recently, I had a talk with my friend. My friend told me that she's planning to take an oath of following someone who is more part of bay'ah. Okay. Yeah, okay. And the person who she is deciding to take an oath of following his principles, I know him and he's more pious, but I advise her there is Quran and Sunnah from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then why to take the oath? For that she said some Sahabas also took bay'ah from Rasulullah. Can you please tell me how can I give da'wah to her to guide her to the right path? That's a very interesting scenario. So it seems like a Muslim is trying to give da'wah to a Muslim. So there are a lot of assumptions here. You have to unwrap the assumptions. Giving bay'ah, is that something wrong or not? Once you answer that question, and then you can tailor your da'wah. And this is the area of fiqh, not really of theology. Next question. It's also like treason in secular laws as well. Yeah, exactly. The law of apostasy. It's in the legal books. It's in the constitution. Some countries still apply, the execution for treason, and some others that don't. But it's definitely found, and it used to be applied. There's no doubt historically it was applied. So yeah, why people making a fuss about it is because they're against Islam, or there's a bunch of other reasons. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, yeah. So in a similar way, we can address any other question by linking it back to the concept. And this is the concept. Right? This page is all about the concept. It is important to make, the person to see the worldview of Islam, how Islam sees the world. Make them understand and realize that the answer really it relates back to the perspective of Islam on life and reality. And again, when you do that, it makes the other person realize and come to to sympathize and at least appreciate the answer or the difference. Okay, Islam says X, Y, Z because of, they believe that this is from God. God is all-knowing. God is all-powerful. You know, God is loving, God is merciful, He knows what is best for us, He's wise. So they follow God because of, you know, these reasons, these theological reasons. The concept is the most important thing in the Garab. So, you know, starting the Garab, we haven't yet began, but I mean, this is like usually these initiation happens before the Garab, before proving or demonstrating the truth of Islam, why Islam is true. Okay. So, I mean, that's exactly what you're doing. You're linking back the question to the perspective of Islam, theology, Tawheed, God, Creator, etc. So, is it important to convey, establish the basic and fundamental concept of Islam? Okay, instead of getting trapped into the circular conversations of people, I mean, that's definitely where we need to be focusing our attention in, and really try to direct, you know, the shift or the wave of the conversation to the essence of Islam. Okay, I mean, there's a question back again here. Hamza, so if a Muslim publicly declares his apostasy in a Muslim state, while affirming that he bears no enmity towards the Muslim state, suffers no consequences, you mean in terms of execution? No. Yeah, the person does not in terms of execution. In terms of other consequences, yeah, possibly. But in terms of execution, it's only when the person is a threat to the Islamic State, or the person has some kind of movement. What do we? I have no idea. I'm not too sure. Muslim reformers like Majid, Nawaz. I'm not too familiar with these people, and I don't know their views. I don't know what they believe in, so I can't really comment. Can't really make a comment here. Inshallah, maybe that's something that I can further do some investigation. But at the same time, I mean, that's not really my field. I can't make any comment here. Okay, so moving on. You know, some people, they have a yes or no. Then they will have a yes or no approach. And what is the yes or no approach? That will tell you. Look, tell me, yes or no. Is having, for example, abortion, right? I think abortion is mentioned in the slide somewhere. For example, are you against abortion? So they will tell you that as well. So what is the answer with respect to abortion? I mean, is the answer yes? Is Islam for or against it? You know, I can't tell yes or no. You know, these are questions. It goes back to my representation. Why? What is the basis of the yes? What is the basis of me saying no? It's all about the basis, the explanation, the representation of saying yes or no. You know, me saying yes or no doesn't tell you who I am or what are my beliefs. You know, what beliefs I adhere to and follow. So, you know, anyone who says, tell me yes or no, tell them, look, you know, we can't have a proper discussion. What you're saying is, you know, it's counter discourse and it's counterproductive, because essentially what we want to do is understand each other's beliefs, understand where we're coming from. And that comes with explanation. We're telling you why this is the case. You know, these are some things that you can do when you're giving da'wah. Make dua beforehand, before giving da'wah, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open their heart to Islam. You know, make dua that Allah guides us. You know, make dua that Allah makes it easy for me to convey the message of Islam. Make dua, you know, for many other things that you can do. You know, be respectful, presentable, well-mannered, be polite. You know, break the ice, introduce yourself, tell them about yourself, what you study, etc. And then direct any conversation into a da'wah conversation. You know, so if someone's speaking about, let's say you're with a friend, non-Muslim, you know, the name of your friend is Bob. Tell them, hey Bob, I've been thinking about the world and nature in the universe. It really amazes me and fascinates me how complex the universe is. Don't you think that there's a designer? Don't you think that there's a creator for the universe? You know, who knows? You know, or maybe if that's too much, if that's intimidating, just ask something simple. Something that, you know, gets the conversation started. You know, you can maybe ask, hey, how much do you know about Islam? Have you ever thought about Islam before? What do you think about Islam? These are some templates or some samples you can take with you. You know, these are some of the notes Obviously, you know, don't be rude. It's not from the character of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, don't become impatient. Again, this comes with wisdom, making judgment about others. Making judgment about others based on their looks. Don't do that. So if someone looks like they, you know, this person is a this person looks like, you know, no way this person will be guided. This person looks like a 100% deviant, a kafir, a non-Muslim. There is no way this person will be guided. I mean, this is a wrong perspective, a wrong approach that one should have when giving da'wah. One should be open-minded, wallahi, open-minded, regardless from the background of the person, you know, the appearance of the person. Be open-minded, be neutral, enter the conversation like this person might accept Islam, you know, inshallah. So being apologetic, so, you know, don't distort the message of Islam, you know. Quote Islam for what it is, you know, tell the people, you know what Islam is, don't change the message. When Musa alayhi salam was giving da'wah to Fir'aun, he didn't change the message, the content was the same. It was the way how you deliver Islam, the way how you articulate Islam. You know, that's what's important. Yeah, I mean, these are some of the don'ts. Again, don't make a fame of da'wah, don't make da'wah as an excuse to do haram, etc. Yeah, you know, some people, you know, they say, look, I'm trying to guide this sister in Islam. I'm trying to tell her how to do some good stuff, you know, about Islam, what is the right way. You know, you never know. You could be fooling yourself, you know, from one thing to another thing, from another thing, and before you know it, you know, the person ends up in an unlawful relationship. And it could be both ways. It could be from a sister trying to give da'wah to a man, and before you know it, they end up in an unlawful relationship. So, you know, we should keep the guidelines regarding gender interaction in our mind. You know, we shouldn't try to cross the boundary of the gender interaction. Okay. Know your audience. Again, this comes simply by asking them a few questions. What are your beliefs, sir? Hi, madam. Can I know what exactly do you believe in? You know, ask the person a few questions just to gauge and to understand what they believe in. And then you can tailor your da'wah accordingly. If they're Christian, you know, you can tailor your da'wah in that way by asking them shubuhat. Right? Because there are many doubts that within Christianity, many contradictions, many problems, many flaws that they have. And for some reason, it just gets like, you know, it's like it's shoved away in a closet. No one knows about it. You know, it's definitely something we should unravel, we should speak about. These are the problems in Christianity. They have not been solved for 2,000 years, you know. So, yeah, we can keep it going. Whether the person is an academic Christian, the approach will be slightly different. Non-practicing Christian, you know, again, the approach is going to be a bit different. You know, it's hard to mention all of the different approaches into one presentation, but these are all different methodologies, different ways that we can give da'wah. There is the generic template, so we can all use the generic template, which is just tell them about Islam, why we believe in Allah, why we think our belief in Allah is the most objective, the most rational, the most correct and coherent belief. You know, our belief in the Quran, why we believe it to be the divine word of God, about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, why Prophet Muhammad is the true prophet messenger of God, you know, why there is the belief in the afterlife, why we believe in paradise and hell. All of these questions are simply an offshoot of the GoRap. So inshallah, I mean, unfortunately, we didn't have time to go into the GoRap, but I mean, that's definitely something that we are going to consider next week. We're going to speak about the GoRap and why the GoRap is, you know, so we spoke about the benefits and why it's the best approach, because it leads us directly to Tawheed, theology, God, reality, in the basis and representation of our belief system. So I mean, that's something that we can definitely, inshallah, cover from next week. And inshallah, what we can do now is that we can leave it for Q&A. I believe 8:45, that's the time for Q&A. So inshallah, if anyone does have other questions, they can ask.
Brother Mustafa,
Yes.
by the way, if you don't want to do the Q&A, it's fine because people are already asking questions already.
Yeah, no worries. Not a problem. Not a problem. Inshallah, we can get straight into it. Interestingly, this is when I finished for this presentation. So what I'm gonna get another presentation out. So just bear with me. Just bear with me. Everyone, bear with me. I'll just grab another presentation out. Okay. And what I'll do, actually, I'm ready to charge my laptop. So just give me 1 minute. All right, I'm back again. So, I mean, this is the next section. This is the next session, which was meant to be for today as well. So, this was meant to be covered for today, but because of time. So, fine, inshallah, we'll get started. This is the content. What is the way to sound belief? How can you come and formulate sound belief? Number 2, what are the evidences for the existence of the Creator? Proof. What are the contentions against the belief of the Creator? The need for prophets and messengers, and evidence for the divine origin of the Quran. This is literally what the GoRap is about. So, if a person can prove these points, God, Quran being from God, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, then essentially what you have done is that you have proven Islam to be the truth. Because these are the underpinnings of Islam. If someone tells you why Islam is true, it's literally because from an Islamic perspective, we believe in Allah, we believe in God, we believe that God has sent prophets and messengers with a scripture. So He has sent Prophet Muhammad with the Quran. If we can prove these points, then basically we have proven Islam to be true. Okay, so this is the proof of Islam. Essentially, this presentation is about the proof of Islam, justifying Islam as being the true religion. Okay, so I mean, you guys can read that. It will definitely take some time, but basically, Ibn al-Jawzi, rahimahullah, he mentions that the first obligation is about knowledge of Allah with proof. Knowledge of Allah with proof. يعني علم معرفة بالدليل. So with proof and evidence. This is the first obligation upon humanity, upon mankind. And then he gives some of the evidence. The evidence don't have to be sophisticated. The evidence do not have to be complicated or complex. Very simple evidence. And what satisfies one person may not satisfy the other person. You know, one person can say, look, the fact that there is design in Earth, just in planet Earth, is sufficient evidence that Allah exists. Khalas, that's it. That's all what is required, evidence for that person. It's a personal kind of evidence with a personal belief. Okay, so I mean the evidences, they do not have to be 100% definitive, absolute, conclusive, without any error. This was not the approach, and it was not the understanding of the ulama. Any evidence is sufficient as long as you have the belief. The end is the belief. The end is iman. The end is not conclusive proof. That's just a means. So we have to be very careful in these discussions. What is the means and what is the end result? So we'll go next. A thought experiment. Okay. What would you say to yourself if you suddenly woke up in a desert? There is no people, no technology, no sign of help, no water, no shelter, nothing available. Just you in the desert land. What would you say to yourself? I guess the most basic, fundamental, intuitive questions that you would ask yourself are the following. How did I get here? Where am I? Why am I here? And what to do next? And how can I survive? And where am I going? What's after this phase? Right? Where am I going? What happens if I die? You know, these questions are very intuitive for any human. Now, likewise, we are created in this world. We are placed in this world, being born into this foreign world. You know, this world, dunya, is very foreign to the soul. The soul initially comes from a place called Alimul Arwah. Alimul Arwah, the realm of the souls. This is where all of the souls are. Before it comes into this world, the soul resides in this place. That's where all of the souls are. And then it comes to the dunya. And then from this short, temporary, transient life in this world that we spend, we will go to the next phase, which is called Alimul Barzakh. It's the intermediary between life on earth and the life in the hereafter. And then we enter the fourth stage, which is the life of paradise or hell. So this is very foreign. Now, again, that's a sidetrack. The point is the same question undoubtedly applied to every human being. We are here on earth. Why am I here? How did I get here? Who placed me here? Why am I born? Why me? Why am I here? What do I do next? And how can I survive? What is the salvation? You know, the people in the world, you know, the pleasures of the world, the houses, the food and the drink, all of these are distractors in finding our real purpose of life. It's just part of the world. It's just part of the world. They are distractors. So we have to find our purpose of life. And these are the questions that we have to think about. If we start from a default blank state, you know, for example, asking an atheist, you know, ask these questions. We're speaking to an atheist. Look, did you spontaneously emerge and pop into existence? Did you get here without a cause? Did you get here from nothing? You know, did a giant bird take you and drop you off here? How did you land here? Initially, you did not exist. You were non-existence. They call it Adam. Adam, yani you were non-existence. And then you came into the state of wujud, existence. You know, why? Why? You know, what are the correct answers? I mean, that's what we have to find. You know, we are in this world to search and to find and identify the answers to these questions. How did I get here? Who put me here? Why am I here? And what is my purpose in life? What do I have to do? And what will happen to me after I die? And it's these questions, or rather the answers to these questions, that determine your outlook on life, determines your perspective, and it determines your moral behavior. It's the answers to these questions. You know, different worldviews and belief systems emerge as a result of these fundamental questions. So we have to find what is the correct worldview and belief system. You know, we have to go back to the basics and start from the basics. How do we identify the correct worldview and belief system? As mentioned by Ibn al-Jawzi and many other great scholars such as Imam al-Juwayni rahimahullah, Imam al-Haramain, and many other great scholars, Imam al-Ghazali. You know, the first obligation upon humanity and upon mankind is knowledge of God. Is knowledge of God. That's the first obligation. Now, again, we should keep in mind this is the first obligation for all of humanity. So it means your non-Muslim friend who sits next to you in your tutorial, you know, the first obligation upon that person is knowledge of God. The first obligation upon anyone, mankind, humanity, is to believe in the Creator. And obviously with that belief, then comes the obligation of praising, glorifying, and worshipping. But that's for next time, that's for another time. Now, what does this mean, the first obligation? It means that humans are responsible to find God, to deduce the existence of the Creator. Okay, basically to find the rational justification, the rational means for the belief in the Creator. Now, scholars have mentioned that the only way to arrive at this objective certainty, which is translatable, it's translatable to everyone because of the rational mind. The rational mind is a universal, accessible tool that is bestowed and endowed upon all sane human beings. That's why these are transferable, and we can sympathize with the objectivity of rationality. So this is why scholars have taken this method of trying to find a rational justification, rational basis for the belief in God and for the belief of Islam, because it's universally understandable, discernible. It's not subjective, rather it's based on objective, rational arguments and proofs to come to this belief. Again, this is not saying this is the only way, okay? This is not the only way, but at the same time, it is definitely a powerful, compelling way in order to prove and to demonstrate the belief of something. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ in Surah Al-Muhammad. That's the quotation, verse 17. Where what it means to say knowing, فَعْلَمْ, it means to have knowledge based on certainty. And the ulama, as mentioned, they said that certainty of knowledge is based upon these rational proofs. Again, this is not this is not the only way, but it's definitely one way. There is another way of reaching the certainty, and that is upon your experience with Allah, your knowledge, your experiential knowledge with Allah. So how you are basically with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the belief that you develop upon worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's called ihsan, ihsan. And based on these spiritual experiences, you can come to a certainty about this presence of Allah. It's called the divine presence. Wuquf al-qalb. The divine presence, that Allah is aware, Allah is there. And Allah is there, He's real. Again, but that's a spiritual kind of way of attaining that certainty. And that was also mentioned by Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah. That's something that we can speak about in a later time. So now we speak about epistemology. And the reason why this is so important and critical when it comes to these discussions is because people, they have a different toolkit when it comes to their knowledge. And then what do they accept as knowledge? How can they know of something? How can we formulate our beliefs? Upon what kind of evidence? What kind of proofs? All of this comes under epistemology, which is basically the theory of knowledge and belief, its methods, its validity, and its scope. So this discussion becomes very important when trying to arrive at knowledge. What are the different ways that one can arrive at knowledge, belief in truth? Or is there even truth to begin with? All of this is covered under epistemology. So how to approach belief and knowledge, the belief in Allah, the belief in Islam, how can we know about these? These are objectively true. So how can we acquire knowledge? How do humans come to their beliefs, the positions that they have adopted? What are the different ways of reaching a particular belief? All of that comes under the field of belief, knowledge, epistemology. Can belief knowledge be based on emotion? For example, let's consider the scenario. You are feeling sick, you have a high temperature, you have a runny nose. So you go to the doctors to get yourself checked. The doctors tell you, look, based on these symptoms, it seems like you have cancer. Obviously, you're telling the doctor, what on earth are you saying? I present no symptoms of cancer. I present symptoms of flu. Okay, so what is the evidence that I have cancer? And the doctor says, I feel like that you have cancer, therefore you have cancer. Now, is that a rational, plausible kind of explanation?
Media was dictating to us about how we should feel about ourselves, whereas one path is helping us to be able to.
There is some background noise. If someone can put their things off, that would be great.
The reason myself and many others want.
Okay, so we'll continue. I mean, you wouldn't accept this explanation. I highly doubt you would. How about belief, knowledge based on meditation? Some people say, look, just feel good about yourself and knowledge comes to you. You'll be inspired with knowledge. I mean, okay, but at the same time, it's just subjective. The objective, it's not going to inform the objective truth and the objective reality just based on your personal subjective experiences. You know, like consider the scenario. You have a math exam. Are you going to try and find the answer to a question? Look, it's a calculus question. Let me meditate and try and find the answer through meditation. I mean, I highly doubt you're going to do that. I highly doubt anyone's going to do that. It's not a practical thing that someone would do. Rather, they'll try to think about the answer, trial and error, guess, do something, think about it, instead of just trying to meditate and hoping that the answer will arrive. How about belief, knowledge based on blind following? A very common one. I mean, consider the scenario: you invest $100,000 into a game competition. If you get the answer right, you will win back your money. So you will have your $100,000. Otherwise, you will lose the $100,000. It's your money, right? Now, you ask your siblings or your friends and your parents, and you ask all of the folks that you know of the answer. And they all tell you, look, I'm blind following others. You know, my answer is apple, or my answer is spade, or my answer is 5, or whatever the answer to the question is, right? And, you know, they'll say, this is my answer, but I'm following others. The question now is, would you participate in this blind following? Would you participate in blind imitation? Would you merely follow others based on following upon others? Right? Does this blind following make the answer correct? You know, does the belief in the majority of the people are non-Muslims? You know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confirms this in the Quran. The majority of the people will be disbelievers. Allah mentions it. Does that mean disbelief is correct? Hasha wa kalla, definitely not. Belief in knowledge based on empiricism and scientism. Right? Now, we can unpack empiricism and scientism. I mean, that's going to come later on, but just for the sake of presenting the example and scenario, is belief and knowledge sound if it's based on empiricism and scientism? Now, again, consider that empiricism and scientism, it has with it a load of assumptions, okay? So the first assumption,
they are not driven by money.
There is background noise. If someone could, you know, mute themselves. Let me see who it is. Sorry. Mute. Okay, alhamdulillah, that's good. All right, so as I was saying, the assumptions of the philosophy of empiricism and the philosophy of scientism. Okay, science is the only method of knowing, coming to knowledge. Science is objective. Science will answer all questions. Right? These are some of the assumptions that people have with respect to science. Now, you should keep in mind that none of these statements or propositions are themselves empirically or scientifically verifiable and testable. What this amounts to is that this belief itself is contradictory. Anyone who comes with a background of scientism or empiricism, for example, there was that famous guy who debates Muslims, and I just forgot his name, subhanAllah. He's a philosopher of science. He's a non-Muslim atheist, has debated a few Muslims in Sydney. He's from UNSW as well. I forgot his name. Subhanallah. Inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Not Daniel. He's like an old man with white hair, philosopher of science, UNSW. Peter, yeah. Slezak. Yeah, Slezak. Yeah, Slezak. That's him. Thanks. So, I mean, this person, he has a very contradictory belief because he's a strong advocate and proponent of empiricism and scientism. Science is the only way. That's the only way. Science will answer your questions. Any other way is subjective, and any other way is not as strong evidence and not as good evidence as science. But his belief is self-contradictory philosophically. Okay, maybe not so practically, but philosophically, based on his belief system, there's a contradiction. Because his own statement of belief that science is the only method of knowledge, science will answer all questions, science has a domain in theology, reality, in objectivity, in metaphysics, etc., in morality, in ethics, all of this is all contradictory. So you know.
Sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Probably finish off this slide, inshallah, whenever you find appropriate, and inshallah we'll end the meeting.
Inshallah. So what I'll do is I'll just say this and I'll finish it off because it's related.
Yeah.
So empiricism and scientism. So we explain it, right? Empiricism, it is a metaphysical and thus a philosophical belief that real observations of matter such as any physical or tangible object or thing, is the only way of knowing things. That's empiricism. Right? It is a strong proponent of empiricism. Also, scientism. This is a metaphysical and thus a philosophical belief that scientific method is the only way of knowing things, only through science. Every other method and way is void and null, and it's effectively meaningless. So, and what is science about? Science is about hypothesizing, predictions, coming up with predictions, doing experiments, making the observations, noting the results that are obtained, and then evaluating that against the null hypothesis. That's what science is about. However, what they believe in is something different. It's a metaphysical belief. These assertions, these statements that science is the only way, science gives us facts, or science leads to certainty. All of these are unjustifiable assertions that cannot even be proven by science itself. Hence why it's a self-defeating argument, self-contradictory. So inshallah, we will stop here, we'll end here as we've gone over time. But inshallah, we'll definitely continue this from next week. And,
Jazakallah khair, Mustafa.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll see you next week where we'll go over more stuff. And guys, last note, don't forget to fill out that form because we get to do these events through ARC. And if you do that, it'll be great. That's for UNSW students as well. So again, Jazakallah khair. I hope to see Mustafa, brother Mustafa Omar, and all of you next week, inshallah, to finish off how to give dawah.
There's a few questions. I don't mind answering people's questions. If people can leave, they can leave. But I mean, there's a few questions.
That should be fine.
Yeah. I'm just going to because there was a previous question I did not answer by UTS Muslim Society. I'm not sure if he's still here or if the person who's on that page is still here. But I'll answer the question for the benefit of everyone. Do people who are members of Tablighi Jama'at follow the correct methodology of da'wah? The correct methodology of da'wah? Not entirely. Although in principle, they are correct. In principle, incorrect. If anyone studies the Tablighi methodology, you'll come to the realization in principle, their understanding is correct. However, in terms of the practical steps, I have issues. There are certain things that I disagree. For example, they tend to restrict da'wah to only the Muslim. Only the Muslim. I consider this very problematic because this was not part of the Sunnah or part of the methodology of Rasulullah or mentioned in the Quran. So, I mean, if the Tablighists do that, I mean, there's good in what they do. we're not saying there's no good in what they do. You know, they give da'wah. But in terms of their methodology, if it's restricting it to the Muslims, then I find it's problematic, because the principle is da'wah is given to everyone and anyone. That's the principle. Okay. And there was another question just asked recently by Brother Hamza. Questions, if we have time. Okay, is it because you cannot use science to prove science? Absolutely correct. You can't use science to prove science. And if you do not accept other methods of acquiring knowledge, then science is non-provable. If you do not accept, exactly. So if a person does not accept other methods of acquiring knowledge, then science is non-provable. If you mean that we're trying to prove science, but we can't do it because science is the only way. I mean, you're restricted to science, but it fails you. You know, yeah, like it fails you. So there's no other way yet. So in that sense, as Brother Hamza laid out, you know, science is not justifiable. It can't prove itself philosophically and not practically. And you know, the practical implementation in the practice of science is via induction. Right, and this is something we can speak next week, induction, right? Which we're moving from the particular to a generalized statement. Science can't even prove induction. So, I mean, practically, it's unjustifiable. Philosophically, it's unjustifiable. So, the belief that science is the best way, it's the only way, you know, science answers all questions, we should believe in science, all of these, I mean, it's just fallacious. There's Darwinism. This is a massive question. UTS Muslim Society member, you're asking me a massive question. Does Darwinism, it has certain assumptions. And you know what, there are different interpretations of Darwinism as well. So this is something that we can address hopefully inshallah in the upcoming lessons. But to give you a brief answer, Islam is not against evolution. Okay, evolution happens literally on a daily basis within the human body. Human body, it develops, you know, an immune system, an immune response to a particular pathogen, you know, which is like a virus or a bacteria. You know, that's evolution happening within your own body. You know, so the idea of evolution is very vast and broad. So we have to zero at what do you mean by evolution? What kind of evolution? Even biological evolution, we accept. You know, humanity has evolved. Humanity has evolved within humanity. But when it comes to transmutation or you know macro evolution, then they are problematic. But Darwinism, you know, it's more about common descent, universal common descent. That's against Islam. So, I mean, that's the answer that I can tell you. That universal common descent or common ancestry, that's against Islam. But again, there are different opinions as to what extent is against Islam. I mean, it's definitely not something which will take someone out of the fold of Islam. You know, because if someone believes that humanity themselves, Allah created, it is the direct creation of Allah who created Adam alayhi salam. And if he believes in all of the other evolution with other species, other animals, I mean, although that's not in the mainstream belief of Islam, it does not take a person outside of the fold of Islam. It's just a different interpretation. It's a matter of interpretation. Ijtihad. Allah alam, but it's a matter of ijtihad. Yeah, I mean, inshallah, I mean, I guess we can end it here. It's basically the Jazakallah khair. I hope I've imparted some beneficial knowledge, something that, you know, from the little that I know, I hope I passed on something that we can all take on, we can implement inshallah in our lives. If I have made a mistake, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me, and I hope to be corrected and rectified on that. Barakallahu feekum inshallah, and may Allah reward all of you for attending, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it something that is counted towards our hereafter in terms of reward and the pleasure of Allah. وإياكم جزاكم الله خير to everyone as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.